Welcome everyone to Building Products Ecosystem Unboxed. The title of today's show is How Architectural Sales Reps Want to Work with Building Products Manufacturers. And today we have Erica Thompson, architectural sales at Rio Grande Company. We're so excited to talk to her today because she has a lot of great insights for us today. My name is Will Smith. I am your host, and as I said it last week, 2022 is the year of Unboxed. So what exactly are we unboxing for you today besides a fantastic episode with Erica Thompson? Well, let me tell you what we're unboxing today. So let's see, what do we got here for you? We've got for you, Enablement has relaunched our website. We recently redid our website, and that's what we are unboxing for you today, our website relaunch. Well, why did we do this? I'm sure you're asking. Well, we wanted to provide clarity and get very specific as to the types of solutions we provide, but more importantly, what problems we are helping building material manufacturers solve. For example, the title of today's episode, How Architectural Sales Reps Want to Work with Building Product Manufacturers. That is an issue that we want to help solve, and that's why we brought in Erica for today. So, our solutions, our strategies include revenue performance management, client management solutions. We provide CRM implementation and sales enablement, and we also provide PRM implementation and partner relationship management. And of course, I work with a fantastic team at Enablement. We are a great team. I might be a little bit biased here, but I will tell you that check out our newly redesigned, relaunched website. That's the first step. But of course, that'll give you a nice general overview as to what we provide. The next step is to have a conversation. Get into the specifics. Get into the specifics as to how we can help you based on the solutions that we provide. So this is going to be we're excited about this, obviously, and we want to make sure that we let everybody know. So that's what we have unboxed for you today. But let's get to our guest, shall we? Let's talk a little bit about, let's meet Erica, okay? So Erica, I love this. She was a Zamboni driver in college. And of course, that's going to be my first question for her. How did you go from Zamboni to architectural sales? But we're going to get into that. We'll let her answer that. She's a mom to a 12-year-old boy. She played soccer in college. She, is a competitor. So I love that. And this is my favorite right here. She doesn't own a wine stopper. And as she says, quote, I don't know if this is exactly a fact or a problem. I'm not sure. But either way, Erica is in architectural sales for the Rio Grande Company. Please welcome to the show, Erica Thompson. Welcome, Erica. Our whole studio audience, very happy that you're here. As you can, they're all out here just waiting for you to share your insights. How did you go from Zamboni driver into architectural sales? Give me the quick version here.
Oh man, quick version. So I went to University of Minnesota for college. It happened to be my work study job, being the Zamboni driver. And so graduated with the degree in finance and got my CPA, was an accountant and a CPA for about 9 years before I got into architectural sales. And so it's not as awesome as a transition as it was, but it was a really fun thing to put on my resume for my first few jobs as a CPA. And going into the public accounting world was my whole entire work study job was being a Zamboni driver for the university. I was only allowed to do women's games though, because I wasn't quite fast enough for men's. You have to go 3 times around the ice for men's, and you only had to do 2 times with women's.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so if we were to put you on a Zamboni today, is it like riding a bicycle? Would it all just come back to you?
I think so. I think it would come back. It'd take about a loop, maybe run into a few posts, but I get it.
It's all good. You just need a little practice run. That's all. Oh, that's great. Fantastic. So what made you decide to go from accounting into architectural sales? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was a CPA for, like I said, almost about 9 years. I decided to kind of make the career change. One thing so medical marijuana was a big thing here in Colorado when it first came out. I shifted from public accounting into the private industry, and I helped a lot of medical marijuana companies start their own, accounting steps, because it was a really interesting thing with, you can't have banks and all of that. And I decided it was taking a lot of my energy. So I was a single mom at the time of a 12-year-old boy, like you saw, and I just needed a little bit more flexibility. And a girlfriend was like, you'd be perfect in sales. And then I also, at the same time, took a personality test, the little discs. And they were like, what are you doing in accounting? you need to get out and touch people and hug people. And in accounting, I always called it my forever alone office. It was always in the back room, by the bathroom. No one ever really came and talked to you unless there was something wrong with payroll or needed some answers on financials.
I love that you took that personality test and you found something that fit, that really spoke to your strengths, that you need to get out there and that you need to be around people, and that sales was where that should happen. So what made you kind of zero into architectural sales then?
Oh man, I feel like there's just natural progression sometimes in the industry that happens. I started as an outside sales rep in the residential world, and I just really liked working with designers. I really enjoy the ins and outs, the people who actually are ultimately kind of responsible for the project too, of what goes on. I like architects. Being as a CPA, you deal with people who are on the educational side of things and understand and are really driven on the educational side of what it's going to be. And so that was really nice. So I've always wanted to be in that part.
Okay, so let's talk about some sales stuff. What should everyone in your space, particularly in sales, what should they stop doing? Just cut this out right now.
I said you just should stop comparing yourself to your competitors and start being the best version of yourself. Kind of going deeper into that is, like I said, I played competitively in soccer. I'm a naturally competitive person. I'm always into knowing what my competitors are doing. However, there's like a really interesting time that kind of shifted my thought process on this whole thing was when I was playing an alumni game. I was so excited to play the alumni game. I'm, 30 plus. I'm playing in 30 plus leagues, and we all know once you're in 30 plus leagues, everybody plays a little bit down because we know what happens. If you don't play down, a little bit more safe, you end up with a copay. And if you don't know what a copay is, well, then just call yourself blessed, I guess. But so I was so excited for this alumni game. And so I'm a left defense. And my goal was my position for these drop balls was to guard the left post of the goal. Well, there was a girl on the other side, and of my opponent, and she would move. So every time she moved, I would react. And I'm like, okay, and it'd get me out of position. And I realized after a couple of these, that was her goal, was to get me out of position. So every time she reacted, I would follow, and then I'd be out of my position. And of course, I left my spot open. And I realized that I'm reacting to this person. I'm leaving mine completely open, and I just need to stop, focus. I know how to play the game. I know how to be left defense. Although this girl's 15 years younger than me, she does not know what this old bull has, and I'm about to show her. So, and that's what I mean by stop comparing yourself. Really just focus on your mission, focus on what your strengths are, and, and go forward with that.
I would say also focus on your customer as well, because if you're constantly reacting to your competitor, then you're really almost kind of trying to outsell the competitor, which is important, but you're not focused on the customer as well. Would you agree with that?
That is true as well. If your only level of metric is your success is if you're beating your competitor, well, then you're more transactional and you're not really looking for that relational.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love how you just put that. So great rewind moment right there. For those of you that are listening, sometime in the future, I love that. Just really focus in on your customer. So tell me in your opinion, what some category leaders are doing in their marketing and in their partner enablement strategies that you think are just really just being successful. They're really winning at those marketing and partner enablement strategies.
Yeah, I think I'm going to kind of come with a repetitive theme here of reactionary versus in control. I think it's just really important to kind of dive down into that. And people who are really, at the end of the day, thriving are just making it easier. Like every industry has changed. We just talked about prior to the show, right? About we used to have cable, now we don't have cable. We're using streaming things. All of that has changed too. So if you're not changing with the times and making it easier on people, you're just going to fall apart, and it's not going to end up happening. People want, ease, and that's for everybody, whether it's distribution, whether it's end users, whether it's architects, and all of that as well. And really just understanding what the next level of people are coming in. If we're, I had another experience too, where we left a meeting and, we handshake and we said, hey, yeah, this meeting is going to go through. And people took it as like, okay, good old handshake, this sales obviously going to go. And I was like, well, hold on. We can't, just because they shook our hand and said they like our product doesn't mean they're necessarily going to specify it. Like there's more relational stuff that's being requested now. These days of dropping into people's office and you being their only option, it's just not the case anymore. The internet has opened up a lot, and we have to create ease for these people to do that. So whether it's in your marketing, whether it's in your website, whether it's in asking good questions when you're doing things, being there for architects to really help, those are going to thrive. And it really comes through more on your marketing side of that. So your website having really easy ways for people to get, at the end of the day, the answers that they're looking for without having to either call up a person and doing it or waiting for emails to be responded to.
Wait a second. I'm not the only person out there. I love how you pointed that out. The days of just bringing donuts to the office and you being the only option out there. Hey, I can find a new supplier very quickly. I can find a new product very quickly, and I can find somebody that's making my life easier. And so why would I even consider, the donuts are great, thanks very much, but I want my life to be easier, not full of sugar, I guess. I don't know. That's a great point right there. Just to kind of, I guess, bring together what you had just said. It's all about ease. I don't want to have to talk to somebody. That's one of the reasons why I don't have, we were talking before the show, I don't have cable anymore, because it was just frustrating. I want what I want on demand, and that's through those streaming services. Now, whether or not I'm saving money, well, that's another story. But
and also, I want to watch what I want to watch. Well, my kid can watch what he wants to watch in another room. There's different things we don't have to share.
That is so true. And in a family of 5 for me, yep, that's definitely that is definitely an issue. Or even a selection. I don't have to have a TV in this particular room. I can watch it on my phone. I can watch it on my iPad or my tablet or whatever you. So that is a great point. Ease of use, and I guess in this case, multiple devices. How can I easily get, if I'm an iPad person or if I'm always on my phone, how can I get to you quickly? Is your website optimized for mobile? To me, let's just make it that much easier. So, yeah, that's terrific. Hey, I got a quick question for you from the audience. Let me just pop it up on the screen here. Our pal Christopher Randall, how are you handling supply chain disruptions and representing them to your clients?
Oh man, we touched on this a little later too, and through the questions too. One of the biggest headaches I'm going through, and that's one of the things as well. And ultimately, what I'm doing with these supply chain disruptions is I'm really helping architects plan for a plan B from the get-go. So as soon as I'm getting asked to drop off a sample of an A item, I'm helping them say, hey, let's plan ahead, and let's say there's a B item in the process. Let's have that going right away too as well. And that's generally what I'm seeing too is being specified a lot, is that people already have their A that they want, and they're quickly already ready for that, VE option in case that item A isn't, ready. They have that quick B item, and then possibly even a C item, just having those 3 options readily available. So that way the architect doesn't have to go through that VE whole entire process way late in the game. They can just be ready to be tackled it right away. And I think that's options for sales reps too. You should always have that too, be ready and know your products of what you're doing.
So you're moving from order taker to more facilitator to solutions kind of engineer. Hey, this is looking good, but just in case, knowing what's happening in the market right now, let's also plan for, I love that you said B and that you also plan for C in some cases. Could you give me an example where you had to and you don't have to get into specifics, but can you give me an example of how you had to plan for A, B, and C?
Yeah, I just recently had that kind of situation earlier today. I have an architect who really loves a certain manufacturer. The manufacturer is great. It's a year out. And in the commercial world, that's maybe not a big deal, but in the residential world, it's definitely a big deal. And they don't work as fast. So sometimes it still happens where people don't understand that even though a year out, and they're like, okay, well, a year out seems so far away, but that means the architect, the GC has to select the mason or the installer a year out because no installer is going to put the PO in before they have the contract right. So you just have to really be ready for this. So if any hiccups don't happen, then you have to have the B. So I brought that in and I said, hey, this is a beautiful product. It's beautiful what you have, but this is a year lead time. If we don't communicate properly up and ahead, then let's look at this option too for a B. And it also gives you time to, not only does that, allow them to plan, but also get something in front of them that they don't necessarily have.
I absolutely love that. Just planning for those, just planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It really shows that that's why you want to work with somebody like you, because you're providing the solution and also a backup solution just in case, because we all know that life just happens. So plan for A, B, C, D, E, and F if you need to. So fantastic answer right there. I love that that's how you're providing value for the people that work with you. So tell me how a manufacturer can increase your loyalty towards them. What for you? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, go ahead. I maybe interrupted you. This is what I'm super excited for. I think for the distribution, so I represent lots of things and items. And so I think when a manufacturer is looking for a really good distributor and a really good architectural rep within distribution, I think a lot of things kind of have to happen. And I think first and foremost is not an oversaturated market with the distribution. Sometimes, like we all as sales reps tend to think if I have more, then I'm going to get more. And that's not necessarily the case sometimes too. If I have more territory, well, then my sales will augment equally to my increased territory. And that's not the case. So at the end of the day, we all only have so much time for so many things. So having a non-saturated market is really important to, in order to not get an oversaturated market, I think it's really important for manufacturers to research a territory and research distributors within that territory to see what aligns with your market. Understanding your niche in your market is perfectly fine. Like if you look at cars, not every person can sell Bentleys because not every person can afford a Bentley. There has to be, there has to be C-level price products as well as A-price products. And so knowing where you are within that market really will help you understand too what distribution will be good for you. So that's one thing I really look for is if this manufacturer researched my company, researched what I sold and what I did. And then the third thing is they're going to be a huge support system for me. Again, they made it easy for me. It all goes back to ease. If you ask everybody, it's ease. They're going to have a really good portal that I can look up orders. They're going to have a really good customer service team that I can do that. And they're going to have a really good website that makes it so easy for me to drop off items to architects, because that's really important to me. Nothing is worse than getting requested for information on a product and not getting it to that architect within 5 to 7 business days because you just dwindle that, the hope that you're going to get the sale, or, they're so excited about this product that you pitched and then it takes me 3 weeks to get them product. You kind of lost the flair and the fun. So those things are what really kind of get me loyalty within the market, is knowing that don't have to compete with every competitor for good pricing, knowing that this product aligns with what I want to sell, and knowing that manufacturer is going to be a really good partner.
Oh, that is so good. I just love that, especially, that novelty wears off when you're dealing with 3 weeks of, lead time. So I want, especially when they say, give me the product, I want to put it in my hands. I want to see, I'm excited about what it looks like, but I want to see, feel, touch. I want to see if this is really going to work. And I love that you are cognizant of that and that you deliver on that's how you want to deliver. So therefore, building product manufacturers that are helping you look good, they're the ones that are going to make it to the top of your list. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, exactly. And we forget that, Amazon, this whole industry is changing. People are expecting things right away. And so if you can't get provided right away, we just lose this interest. And so it's really important to kind of understand that.
Great point as well that we have been spoiled. Amazon has spoiled us that we want it immediately. We want it now. So I think that's great. You referenced a lot of things that I'm going to ask you about. So let's go back to a couple of more features that are some of your favorite customer partner portals. What are some of the features that you really like? You mentioned them in your last answer. And what do you think is missing from those customer partner portals?
So a really good portal is going to be easy to find. Generally, it's on your website. Don't send me to some other link that then I have to memorize all this. Make it easy for us to use it. And I think there's really important things that you have to understand. When I'm in the portal, I'm usually using your portal to either facilitate a sale, like looking up inventory, or I'm using it to understand information about my sale too, right? So a good portal is going to be able to track inventory, what your inventory is in. And if it's not an inventory, maybe a production schedule to understand where it's going to be. Another one will be orders. I should be able to check out my orders. And then from there, it's going to have, it can be sorted by whether my PO, whether it's by, if I have multiple locations as a distributor, maybe by location and by PO, however that is. But I should be able to look up my order and look up where the status is of my order. And then also I should be able to look up past orders too and see those as well. I should be able to order samples and track samples. And another thing that people don't really understand too is maybe specials. A lot of times specials are missing out of orders. And because this is big in the brick world. A lot of brick manufacturers, sometimes it doesn't get fired properly and it becomes what's called a grade B product. It makes everything else, but maybe the color slightly off. Those can be specials. And I can actually look at that and maybe possibly even sell those out to somebody who might need something right away for a really good price. And then job protection, depending on your industry, maybe you might have a job protection folder too. That could be really things as well. Those are the big things that I think that are necessary to have.
I love the specials. Everybody loves a good deal, and especially if you can turn that around quickly. So featured specials. Do you see a lot of places doing that, or is that something that you think more people need to start doing?
I think it's more things that people need to start doing. I don't see it very often. I think big manufacturers will do it. The people who I like the most end up having the specials because sometimes it's just necessary to have. Like I have a project now, they're like, we don't care about the color. We're just kind of filling it in. We're going to paint it. So yeah, great. If you don't care about the color, let's see what I have for cheap and let's go. And then I can send up those samples. Or, you know what? Hey, I don't have this product, or, I don't have this product that's the A category, but let me go see if there's something on the specials line. And it's a win-win for both people to kind of do it.
So tell me a little bit more about one of the first things that you said there was I want to have an easy access to your website, that I don't have to go somewhere else and memorize some crazy URL in order to find the products that I'm looking for. So what other features do you find are most beneficial to you in your daily work that a manufacturer's website should have?
Manufacturer's website should also be tailored to kind of what the end user is. I think some of my favorite ones are usually, you go to the main website and then at the top, there's going to be a drop down of what you are. Are you an architect? Are you a homeowner? Are you an installer? And then that website is then tailored to whomever it is kind of looking at. And you can kind of see it from there. So that's one of my first things that a website kind of has. And then from there, your website should always just be easy. Allow the customer to ask questions. So I hate when I have to go into a website and I click a product and I just scroll to find exactly what I want. It's way at the bottom. When honestly, maybe that could be a picture of the product and it can say to the left of it, spec sheets, if I'm an architect, and then I click spec sheets. And then there's a list of, do you want spec sheets this way, or how it is, or lead documents. And then that's to the next. And I can click that and that's going to bring me to a next page rather than having to scroll down to, I want to see it in a gallery. There's all those things. And another thing too that people are missing on their websites are visualizers. Visualizers are so important. And that can be either kind of under a little other subcategory, or, the architect clicks on a product, whether it can even be plumbing stuff, things that people don't necessarily care what they look like. It's still really fun to see how that plumbing fixture gets put into the whole entire system, or how your insulation works within the system. And you can say, hey, visualize this now. And you can click a little video and watch the whole system kind of come up. Is really fun too.
Oh my gosh, this is so great. I can tell that just how passionate you are about a good website experience. That is so important, especially when it comes to personalization. I mean, this is, you really struck a chord with a lot of our viewers here on your last answer because, what you're providing for us are tactical, this is what I need to do well. And as Andrea points out here, personalization in the portal is an important aspect of staying in tune with your customer or client. And you said it right off the bat. The first thing I like to see is architect or I am a self-identify, and then the website just adjusts to that. It really talk about a custom, almost curated experience. Is that what you like to see?
Yes, because at the end of the day, an architect's need is not going to be what an installer's need is. An installer might need more technical documents, but an architect's going to be concerned about, does it look good first? Does it lead? Is it going to contribute to this? Where is it manufactured? These are different questions you have. And a homeowner probably doesn't care about any of that. They probably want to know cost, and they might want to know retail pricing, and they might want to know different things like that too as well.
This is so.
Where do I get it from?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but just like everything that you're providing here, all these notes, all these different things are, this is what helps you in your day to day. This is why we wanted you on the show, because I knew you were going to give us the honest opinion, the honest, hey, this is what we need. This is what I need to make my life that much better. So let's talk a little bit. So awesome stuff. Please, let's keep going. So let's talk a little bit about.
I have one more thing to finish with the website.
Sure, go right ahead. Yes, please. Lay it on us.
Most of my communication starts by email. And so when you start this email process, having a really easy link to then copy into my email that brings them directly to what they're looking for is so helpful, rather than, hey, follow this, and then I have to give them a step tutorial of like how to get to where they want, because sometimes it's not there. So if I could just have, and that's where those, like I said, when you click on the product and then here's your lead documents, they automatically follow too. It's really easy.
So ease of use, like you said, let's talk about, how to make things easier for me. And that's so important. So that's great, especially getting down to the specifics of email. So many people are reliant on email. So, and maybe we take it for granted. So to your point, hey, let's even make your emails, because we all write emails all day, but are you writing a good, easy to use email so that when I do click out, it is an easy experience? That's going to make a difference. Great point. I love that. That is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about sampling, specification, and value engineering. Okay. So what do you see happening most these days in sampling, specification, and value engineering?
Yeah, I think what people have to start with this whole entire understanding is really understanding the process of how items get specified. And it's really important, manufacturers too need to understand this too, because they understand where they fit in the whole process. So by the time an architect specifies a product, a lot, Susan talked about last time too, 75% of it was already done before they even got to this process. So by the time a VE comes in, there's certain check boxes that they have to hit, because that's why they selected that product. It wasn't just because it was pretty. They probably met certain things and it was pretty, right? So really understanding that what the VEs are doing is really important, and where your VE fits in that. I really see VEs fit in my world. If you're a good architectural sales rep and you're a good sales rep, you should already know your project's price point. So VE might not always be, if it's affordable, that usually comes more from the GC, or the installers are looking for something that's a little bit more affordable. But a good VE is going to actually augment the project and complement what they're doing as well, the architect's doing. And so where I'm seeing VEs more or less happen is more or less time constraints. My product can't meet that time constraint that the project has. So therefore they need to look outside of it. Sometimes it is budgetary things too. As we all know, prices have gone through the roof and pretty much everything. So maybe they do need to focus on, a category B project or product when it comes to pricing, things like that. So it's really important too as well. But I mainly see with the value engineering is architects are really planning ahead. I'll talk about a little bit architects later. I think you have another question, maybe if we get there too. Architects are paid by billable hours, and so their time is really important. Nothing's worse than them spending months and months and months of research to have this product specified, and then having to go through that entire process again a year later when the project goes out to bid. So really planning it ahead is really helpful for them.
Yeah, to your point, that's what I was going to ask you about architects. If you were to narrow things down, can you give me like the top 3 things that architects simply want from manufacturers?
Yeah, I think this is really important to kind of understand those top 3 things is really to understand the top 3 things about architects. When they're billable. Comes down to it. So imagine that every time I go to your website, I don't get to charge that. That's research time. So me going back to my CPA days when I had billable hours too, anytime I had to research a topic, that was not billable hours that I could bill back to a project. So that was my own hours that I had to do. So every time I go to your website, that's hours that I can't bill back to my client. And that's hours out of my pocket. And that's hours that my company's paying me or time paying me to just do research. So how can I ease that up? So architects are billable. If you can ease it up for them and use less time, I guarantee you they're just going to go to your product every time because it's just so much more useful. If you can have those CAD drawings easily, if you can have specs easy, if you can have lead easy, all accessible right there. If you can see the gallery right there, it's going to be so much easier. So that's one thing with architects is that they're billable. Number 2 is architects are sales reps too. Actually, people don't understand that architects actually go out and bid projects. So like if the city of Denver here in Denver, if they were like, hey, you know what, we're going to remodel this whole entire city park, well, guess what? Every architect competes on it. And they also have to present their ideas. So if you can keep these architects within your group, ahead of the time, understanding things within good budget points, you can help them too as well. I guess 3, hold on just a sec. So I guess 3 is really architects are also liable for their specifications. People don't maybe understand that. But since they are liable for their specifications, it can't just be a cheaper VE option. You have to show how your product works within their system, and they have to be able to trust your product. So if your website and your reps all can make that happen with ease of you're not wasting my billable hours, but also help me trust this process of where it's going to be. And I know I can trust by specifying this product. I'm going to have a good product. You're going to have a close every time.
That is so good. Top 3 things, not only what they want from manufacturers, but what the difference is because you have to understand the architect. And I just learned so much just from that answer alone. That's fantastic. They're billable. They are sales as well. They have to sell as well. And then the third thing is I need just to refresh my memory there, that third thing was?
They need trust.
They need trust because they're held accountable for whatever they are building. That's incredible. Really good advice right there. Because really it comes down to, if I were to boil those 3 answers down into one, make me look good. Make the architect look good. If you help me look good, help me sell better, help me establish that trust, help me, make my life more convenient as far as billable hours are concerned, then I'm going to come to you every single time. That is great answer there. Fantastic. Tell me what you think. Okay, so that was great for 3 things about an architect. Let's go to top 2 challenges that you are facing today as a distributor.
Oh, top 2 would be increasing pricing everywhere. It's been really hard. I know you and Susan last podcast discussed, able to review pricing and I forget the word for it. I apologize. It's kind of going blank on my mind, but where people always just want to know the transparency. There it is. People want to know transparency on pricing. And it's really hard to provide that transparency when every month you're getting a new price increase from someone, and just your raw materials are being increased, or this is a shortage here. And so that's number 1 has been price transparency has been very difficult because everything has skyrocketed up. Something that was $11 a square foot last year has easily doubled to this year. And so it's hard when you've specified a product. That's like I said, products are often specified a year before they go out to bid too. So, an architect might have specified off a certain budget, and here, now a year ago it comes out and now you have this huge increase, and what do you do and how do you manage that and try to keep it within? So that's one thing, is price transparency has been really difficult because of increased pricing. Second biggest thing that we've had is, I think everybody's dealing with it, is supply chain issues. It's just really difficult when nobody's really planning ahead and helping do that.
Yeah, in the last podcast, or the last episode, Susan and I talked about, stores have it figured out that this is the pricing, But I also think that stores have it a little bit easy in some cases because they're just saying, this is the product, here's the price, end of story. Whereas what you're saying is that timing is, time can just totally fluctuate these prices. And so you're having some real difficulties to be transparent with pricing. How do you personally address that with the people that you're working with?
Yeah, so I recently just had a big project that came up with that, where everybody kind of met, the developer, the installer, the architect all met, and they were like, well, how do this product's increased 50%? How do we manage that from going forward? And I said, well, unfortunately, we can't really manage it because all the unknowns are unknowns that I can't control, such as freight coming in, shipping costs coming in. All of that is just doing it. So the only way to really mitigate that is just get an order now and get it here now. I don't know what the future is going to happen. So helping people, what I've learned out of that is helping people plan has been the better way to go to as well. So as soon as a person wants your product, say, hey, here's kind of the pricing. The best way to do is get an order in now. Let's get it out here. Maybe seeing how you can put ease on your customer a little bit, whether it's holding it in your yard for a little longer, if that's okay, or direct shipping it to the job site, seeing if they can create a space to hold it there, getting it there faster. And just really just preparing people, keeping people up to date. People are generally understanding if you keep them up to date along the process. So you may have quoted a year ago $11 a square foot. If you haven't touched that person for a whole entire year and then you hit them with a 50% more increase, they're going to be shocked. But if you say, hey, 6 months, you're touching them every 4 months, hey, this price is going up, let's help. And then they generally aren't shocked by the time that happens. And then you also can get ahead of it. You're not leading to this scramble. And that's ultimately why your product is going to get switched out, is people are looking to a scramble to fulfill what they had in this budget. And that's going to be here now. So if you're not ahead of it and you're not planning and you're not communicating with people, then you're just going to be in the scramble all the time and being reactionary.
So it sounds to me that you're really positioning yourself as a trusted advisor, that you're saying, hey, I know what the market looks like. I know this is going to happen, or there's a high potential of this happening. So let's plan for this. Let's have our backup plan, as you referenced to earlier, but also let's have a backup to our backup plan as well. Yep. And just constantly, communicate. I don't think you can, especially in a situation like that, you can't over communicate because, as you mentioned, to your point, if they, you haven't talked to them and all of a sudden be like, oh, by the way, 50% increase. Now we're going to start talking. I'm only delivering bad news. Would you say communication is a very big part of this?
Absolutely. Communication is a very big part of it. And the communication has to come from you as well. You can't expect your customers to reach out to you. It has to be from you and being, in control and guiding those people to where it is. And also another thing too is understanding this actually could be a really good time. I know nobody likes the S word, but stocking. From the get-go, when these situations maybe there's stocking product that's a little easier to get and a little bit easier to plan on the budget side because you're stocking it, so you're going to have regular trucks, so it's easier to anticipate what the pricing is going to be. Maybe with your grocery stores knowing the prices because that's what they're always stocking and that's what they always have in house, so the pricing is a lot easier to maintain. So maybe sometimes being ahead of a person and guiding them that way and saying, look, when somebody comes into your showroom or somebody starts a sales process and says, hey, I'm looking for this, but it's a special order item, let them know that it's a special order item. Say, we'd love to help you. This is it. But if you ever get in a pickle, well, here's a standard item that might be easy to kind of help too. And that's just good. Like good distributor is going to have your A products, your B products, and your C products. Your A products are going to be your high valued dollars, a little bit more of margin on it that you can have, and then the B and the C down. So maybe sometimes being just ready to throw in that B that you're stocking. Maybe the A items you don't always stock because those are your custom items, but maybe being ready to show a B item just in case. Oh man. I'm so sorry, I can't hear you. Did I mute it?
No worries. Can you hear me now?
It
Okay,
can.
super. Okay, all right. So, can you give me an example of a time that you switched from recommending one product or a particular manufacturer to recommending another one? And can you give me a little context into why you switched?
Yeah. I think generally the switching really happens. Like I said, a really good person is going to understand the budget from the get-go. So if you're constantly switching things from a higher price to a lower price, you're probably not doing good enough asking questions. That's not generally what I do. I think a lot of times people come into the process with a VE that's cheaper, and you don't necessarily want to always focus on selling the cheaper, right? So when I started switching from a product manufacturing, it really just came from ease. I mean, rinse and repeat. I feel like that's the theme through the process is just ease. When it becomes a problem to where it's hindering me getting back to my customers, so that, which are architects, because I'm an architectural rep, then I'm just not going to push your product anymore. If it's taking weeks to get samples out to these people, if it's taking me for time out of my day to find the answers to these architects what they need, or I can't even provide it because it's not on your website and you don't know, well then, it's leading me down a path that I can't ultimately fulfill my customers' needs. I won't be doing that. So that's when I tend to switch, is it's generally that.
No, that's great advice. And why you're giving us that context
Mm-hmm.
is so important. Why you're making that switch so that manufacturers out there can avoid some of those pitfalls. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about a recent activity that you've implemented at your company that you thought was kind of surprising.
Yeah, I can't say it enough. A visualization of your product has been so helpful. Rio Grande, I'm so blessed to be part of this company, but they have a beautiful showroom. Beautiful showroom. And so one thing was getting architects into the showroom. Obviously, COVID kind of changed all that. No one wanted to go into the showroom. So it was, how do I visualize? We spent all this money in this beautiful showroom. Now I can't get people to see my stone and physically touch it. So how do I get other people to visualize that? And that's constantly having pictures, or constantly our projects, keeping a good data available of projects that might have used your product also. And so when architect asks, and my product is very visual, so I do a lot of cladding material, brick, stone, ACM panels, all of those things. And so pavers, so it's very visual. People really want to know. And nobody ever wants to be the first in their market to use it. So they want to know that it's actually been used before and it's valid, and what you're saying is good too. And so that's one thing too. But one thing has been the visualization, making sure that I have pictures to show people. So as soon as my project gets done, I'm taking pictures of a project that I have something to show. As I keep down that address so an architect can go touch and fill it on their own time if they want to, all of those things. But when an architect asks me for a product, I'm always like, here it is. And here's what it looks like installed too, so you can see it as well. Because once they start visualizing it, it's really helpful. Another thing has been when I go into a meeting and they ask me to drop off samples to talk about a project, I say, hey, what is this going up next to? Is this going up next to your stucco? Is it going next to wood? Bring those other features too as well. Let's get this whole big picture together. Because at the end of the day, the more you can get them to visualize your product being used, it's just so much harder for somebody else to come in and then change it up, because then they have to visualize that product in it, but they've already used yours.
I absolutely love that. How to try to get everything together all at once. And I especially like how you take it's almost like references, like when you're applying for a position, here are my references that you say, here's the product and here's where you can see it. And you can see it here against this, and you could see it in this place. And just assembling that visualization, I think that really creates some loyalty, because if you can speak to that vision, they're going to be more likely to choose you. Would you agree?
Yes.
Oh, that's it's so good. I have learned so much in this episode. So I got to ask you, last question here, Erica. You've done a fantastic job. Really feel like you educated our audience, and I can't wait to see some of the reaction when we post some of these golden nuggets of wisdom that you shared with us on social media. So last question for you. I ask all my guests this question. You went from Zamboni driver to CPA to architectural sales, but throughout all of this, what is the best advice? It could be business or personal, but what's the best advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, I think it's personal and business oriented. This came from one of my mentors in this industry as well. And he said, Erica, if there's one thing you do not do in this building industry, is do not lie. It will always come out in the end. let's say you forgot to put the order in, and 6 weeks later, your customer asks about the product, and you're like, crap, I forgot to put the order in. You just have to fess up to it and own it. And whatever that means, the consequences it is, do it. But if you start being like, oh, the manufacturer's delayed or lying about what it is, then you're just delaying it, and you're delaying the inevitable. They're going to end up finding out at the end of the day. And also, once you lie, it creates a transactional relationship versus a authentic relationship of really caring about the projects, and people know that. And so don't just, if at the end of the day, fess up to what you've made a mistake on and move on and help fix it as best you can.
That's great advice. Like you said, personal and business, because really, how can you be a trusted advisor? How can you, when you're just kind of spinning your wheels and weaving your web? So I think that's great. That is terrific advice. Thank you so much for your time today and being on today's show. I have learned so much. I hope our audience has learned more about architects. So many good things. I'm going to jump into some of the editing, and I can't wait to kind of revisit all these things. Thank you for being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. So we'll talk to you soon, and be careful out there in the snow and in Colorado, but I'm sure you guys are used to it.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Talk to you later, Will.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye now. I just want to say one more time, thanks to Erica Thompson for joining us today on today's episode. Great information. You have been watching and or listening to how architectural sales reps want to work with building product manufacturers. And Erica just got right to it. She just gave us the tactical, you need to do this. This will make my life easier. And if she can give, I really hope you found some value there. So please, as we wrap up today's show, go back and listen to it on YouTube. We're on Facebook. You can find us in all the places, but also keep in mind that you'll be able to find this episode specifically on our newly redesigned website, manobite.com. And so until next time, thank you to those of you that have been watching, those of you that are watching or listening sometime in the future, whether on YouTube or listening to the podcast. You can find us on all of the podcast places, wherever you love to listen to your podcast. Join us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, but really, if you want all the best information, you'll be able to find it right here on LinkedIn. That's where we publish our best stuff, and you'll get a notification every time that we go live. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time, whatever life unboxes for you, may it be great.